So this is about selecting the right group or team for your event. I'm Matt, I'm an account manager here at RunSignup. And what we're gonna cover today is why you should think about teams for your event. We're gonna go over the basic team definitions and the team types that we offer at RunSignup and go through the setup options. This is gonna focus on social teams, but we do have other team types that we'll briefly touch on. We're gonna go over how to price teams as well as different fun team features that you can do. So why should you think about teams? Well, what we've seen is a steady trend over the last couple of years where about 30% of participants are already going to be on teams. And so these are people that are, generally more energetic about showing up to your event, and is a great way to, continue to grow your race. One little marketing tip is if you do have teams, reach out to those team captains for like an early special registration, and that'll get them coming back year after year. So teams also make race day more fun. I mean, what's better than, you're always wanting to go have an experience with friends and go out with friends and family. Teams is what allows you to do that. So you can have a fully immersive experience along the entire way by offering teams. Encourage pre-race training. People can prepare and sign up together and run as a group together, and they can also train leading up to the race together. You can also get fun by having people do matching shirts or costumes for different experiences. And then that leads you right into marketing and promotion. Think about the many opportunities that you would have for like a race banner or post-race images or just marketing flyers in general with smiling faces, people having fun, dressed up together, and things of that nature. And then we also have the race day photo sharing platform and the social media interactions. When you register, you can easily share that registration with friends and family, and you can incentivize that through, you've probably touched on the referral tracking promotion from earlier, as well as incentivizing people to join teams, and we'll get to pricing a little bit later in the presentation. And also, it's a great way to celebrate. Once you're done with the race, you generally want to hang out with friends and family at a post-race party or something like that. And that's already easy to do if you've already come together and registered as a group or team. So marketing is the key to this, right? So you want to touch on your team captains, market to them, because teams provide a reason for people to actually show up together. It's more likely that you have accountability to somebody because you're part of a team. So you're going to get those people to actually show up and have that experience. And then use the marketing to encourage people to either have a certain threshold, maybe a team of 5 or 10 people, and then you get a price break for reaching that certain threshold. And again, it always feels more inclusive when you're coming together, doing it with somebody. That way you're not feeling like alone, and it's really inclusive to people that might not be typically a down to the bone runner that are out there, running on their own every day. So let's go over the basic team definitions of what RunSignup has to offer and what kind of team would be the right one to choose for your event. So there's 3 main categories. We have social teams, which are the groups and teams feature, and that's under the participants tab in the race dashboard. We also have fundraising teams, which is very specific to raising money for a cause. That's under the fundraising tab. And then we also have corporate teams, which is its own unique animal, which is also found under the participants tab. So we'll cover these in reverse order, but you do want to keep things simple. While we do have 3 teams and you could potentially offer 3 separate team types for one race, that can get very complicated really quickly. So we generally recommend on picking the right team for your event. So if you are trying to encourage people to register and grow your event, that's going to be social teams. If you are a charity focused race where your goal is to raise as much money as you can, that's going to be fundraising teams. And if you have a corporate 5K, which you're generally targeting to local companies, which would pay for some or all of the participants' registration fees, then that would be corporate teams. So try not to combine them if you can, and we'll go over them now. So corporate teams, again, this is company-focused races. You can have one special sponsor or something like that and use corporate teams that have people register for them. But generally, that's a little bit more complicated than what you kind of want to get into, because these are generally focused for a race that most of your participants are going to be under corporate teams. So what this also has is a separate registration process where people are going to be invoiced for the registration post race. And so that's something to consider when using corporate teams, is because you have a lot of expenses up front and you're not going to get that revenue until later when you invoice the company teams. But these companies do choose their own payment options. And so they might not pay for their employees. They might just pay for their employees, but not their friends and family. There's all kinds of combinations there. And then just to touch back on corporate teams, we recommend only kind of entertaining this idea if you're going to have over 25% of your participants that are going to actually be on a company team, just because it is a lot of setup to do. And we do have a webinar that we specifically focus on corporate teams and the ins and outs of that. I like to give the analogy that corporate teams are like onions, because there's a lot of layers to the corporate teams, and it can also make you cry if you set it up incorrectly. The next one is going to be our fundraising teams. And again, this is perfect for nonprofits, which are a heavy donation focus. And so if you're a 5K that just happens to help a local charity raise money, then that would probably be social teams. But if you're a nonprofit that is the reason you're putting on the race is to raise money, then that's where you're going to look into fundraising teams. And so these are cause-driven events. Anybody can be a fundraiser, doesn't have to be a participant, or they could have moved out of the area, but that's great for why you should still have a virtual component for your events, is because you can be a virtual participant and virtual fundraiser. And so we also have webinars that are deep dives on both the donations and the fundraising feature to get the most out of that. So if that is the right team type for your event, then definitely check out those webinars. And so today we're here to talk about the social team aspect. This is perfect for just raising more awareness of your race, trying to get more people to sign up. We also have it for a competitive or a relay style event as well. So social teams also can be in the results for virtual, so it can show how many people on the team raised or did how many miles. We also have relay teams where you're registering and each person's doing a specific leg of that. Triathlon relays are popular. Also, we have these ultra races where you're running 100 miles together as a team. And then there's different pricing options that you can set up for that. And that's the whole reason, is it's a marketing thing to get more people and give them a discount for signing up. So we'll cover those pricing options a little bit later. And then there's also creative solutions. So while we did mention that you might have that one sponsor which might think that you want to set up corporate teams, you can create a social team type called corporate team, and then just make it to where it's only the race director can create that, and you can set up special pricing for it. And that's kind of like a simple option to do that. So there's many different flexible options when you're creating your team types on the back end. So we'll kind of get into that information next. So the group setup options, it is a couple of step process, because you have to set up the teams first and then you set up the pricing. And so where you are in the dashboard for this is under the participants tab. You're going to be under the groups and teams area, and you'll see that we have a list of menu items of what you can do. So obviously you'll need to set up the teams to get started, and then we'll go and touch on the pricing setup. But there's other team options in here where you can look at people that are already on teams. You can add new groups if you need to manually add them on the back end, and there's all kinds of reports so you can see how many people are on teams and things like that. So once you go to the setup page, the first thing you do is you create a team type. And a team is generally going to be targeted for a group of 2 or more people that are going to be, joining in the race together. So for this example, they named the group type Caffeine Challenge Team. This is from the Scott Coffee Run. And you just kind of give a little description of what the team type is. And this is shown to team captains when they're creating a team during registration. And then you get to choose which events that teams can participate in. So if you have a 5K and a kids run, then maybe the kids run isn't an applicable event for the team type. And then there's the different advanced options underneath of that. So this is often overlooked, is the advanced settings. It's a little toggle. You just click the plus sign and you can go to some advanced settings in here. You do want to be careful when you are in the advanced settings. That's why they're called advanced. But there's different options in here where I typically recommend staying away from the team joining ends and created date and the cutoff, because your registration periods probably already overlap with that. So there's no need to set that up. But we do offer gender restrictions and group size restrictions, different age range restrictions and things like that. But you definitely want to, if you are working these teams as for results, then you do want to check with your timer on how to set this up. There are some scoring softwares where you might have like a male relay, a female relay, and a co-ed relay, and you're actually not going to use gender restrictions for that. You would instead set up 3 separate group types. That's because the results are separated by group type. So definitely check with your timer if you are using teams for results. We also have some display settings at the bottom of the page, and these are important to customize that registration experience. On the right-hand side, we have the race event group settings. If you have a relay style event that you want to make sure everyone that registers for has to join a team, then you definitely want to check this box, and that forces everybody that registers for that relay event to join that relay team, so you don't have any individuals in the relay. But other than that, if it's a social group, then those would be optional. And then you have some team joining options at the bottom of the page for join team option on the first page of registration. That kind of helps indicate, yes, I plan on joining a team. So during registration, they'll be brought to that step. Or if they say, no, I'm not joining a team, then it just kind of skips that step and makes registration even faster. So those are some things to consider when you're setting up your teams. And here it is in the registration flow, what I just mentioned. So at the bottom, after you've chosen your event, if you've added all the participants to the registration, there's a little question in there, would you like to join a group or team, which is also customizable. And if you select yes, then the next step of registration gets you to what we see on the right-hand side, where there's the little toggle menu where you can join an existing group if you were referred by a team captain, or you can create a new group if you are going to be a team captain and inviting your friends and family to join. So it makes registration pretty easy. And then we'll get to the pricing setup, because this is what you want to do. You want to incentivize people to join teams, to bring their friends and family with you. And one of those ways to do that is with the pricing of teams. And so this is, again, back in the menu under the participants tab. We're in the groups and teams section, and then pricing setup. And there's various different options that you have here. So you can pick 1 or 2, or you can combine them all, where you can do a discount based off of once a team hits a certain size. You can also then give them a refund once they meet that threshold. And then we also have an advanced setting, what I call relay style pricing, which allows you, the team captain pays the full fee for the relay, and then everybody else can register for that relay for free, just because the general nature of relays is there's a lot of turnover with participants joining teams and dropping out and replacing their teammates. So we'll cover those setup options as well. And then there's also group setup fees if you want to charge to set the team up that way. So we're in the pricing setup page from your dashboard, and this is where you can set up registration periods. This is an example where everyone that joins a team would get a discount. And so you'll see here, just to cover the basis, you would just have the pricing starts. You can have it, if you don't have any price increases, then you would just make this at like a generic rate. Otherwise, you're going to follow your pricing tiers that you set up in your race wizard. So if you have an early bird pricing, a regular pricing, and late registration, you would set up 3 different tiers to match those with your pricing starts and ends dates. And then you'll make sure which events the discount will apply to. And then here for the group member pricing, so this is very important text on here, which is overlooked a lot. What happens here is after member blank joins the group, then each following member will pay what amount. And so for everyone gets a discount, then after member 0 joins the team, basically meaning the first person to join the team will pay $20. And so you'll see that in the details here on the right-hand side. It shows members 1+ are all going to pay $20. So that's an example where no matter how many people join the team, everyone just pays the discounted rate up front. And then we'll also cover an option where maybe you don't think that everybody's going to reach that threshold, so you want to encourage them to actually hit that magic number, whether it's a group of 5, a group of 10. And so this is a discount based off the size of the team. So you would say after the 4th member joins the group, each following member will then get the discount of $20, which means the first 4 people paid full price. And we'll get to how to get them refunded here on the next slide. But you'll notice here, after member 4 joins the group, each following member pays $20, and then the details show you that members 5 and up will pay that $20 discounted rate. And then the refund's based off of group size. So this coincides with the previous slide where you want people to pay full price until they get to that magic number. And you'll notice the details from the previous slide were members 5+. And you'll notice here, after registrant 5 registers, that's when the details kicked in. So those numbers are always going to match to make sure you don't skip one of your participants. And so after registrant number 5 registers, the first 4 registrants will receive a refund. And so we're giving them that $5 because they paid $25 to start off. And now that the group has hit that size, they're going to get refunded. So basically everybody net pays $20. You can select the different events that apply for this refund here. And then the ensure registration balance, this is basically just a simple way to say the refund won't go below this amount. And we can't refund more than what was ever paid. So 0 is typically a number that we see here, which means that it doesn't matter what they paid. If they're entitled to a $5 refund, we're going to give them a $5 refund. Another popular number that you would go in here would be the discounted rate would be put in here. So you could also put $20 in this section, which means that they're going to get refunded if they paid full price, but we're not going to refund them below $20, whether they registered for a coupon or what have you. You want to make sure that you hold back at least $20 for that registration. So those are the 2 most popular numbers for that. It's either the discounted amount or 0. So let's get into relay style pricing. So this is basically a separate way to handle event registrations. You do want to have a separate event for the relay choice as well. So you might have a regular race and then you have a relay. Those would be separate events because the pricing is going to be separated. And you also want to help facilitate individuals register for the individual event and team members are going to register for the relay style event. Whatever price that you set up in the race wizard is going to be the price that you would be charging for the full team. That's just standard in the industry, that what we've seen is teams get set up, the team captain pays the full price. We do have the ability to pay per member, just like we went over. You could literally chop it up so each person pays whatever the amount is. If there's a 6-person relay team, you could split it 6 ways and each person pays their own way if you wanted to. But what we see a lot in the industry is the team captain pays the full fee and then their team members can then register under that team for free. So don't forget that you want to require team joining for this. Again, those are the display settings at the bottom of the setup page. And because you set it up this way and people paid 0 as the team members, it's very easy for them to go in and swap it. If you set it up to where each person kind of pays partially their own way, then you're getting into having to refund people and then charge people for the next entry. And it can be really messy. So this is the easiest way to set it up. And we'll show you how to do relay style pricing. So what we want to do here is call out the pricing starts and the pricing ends date. You've already set up your race wizard to have your price increases. All this is doing is just overriding that price for the extra team members. You've set up what the team captain will pay, whether it's early bird, middle, or late registration. And so the pricing starts can be any date in the past. That way you can test the registration or do whatever you need to. So in this example, it's just January 1st, and the pricing doesn't actually end. Because it's just going to be open-ended all the way until race day. And then you can't register for the race after the race has already happened. So there's no reason to put a date in here. And when you renew each year, then it stays open-ended like this. So we have a triathlon relay for this race. We've basically just said override the pricing for the whole window of the year. And it's going to be applicable for the triathlon relay. And then after that first member joins the group, so after 1 joins the group, each following member pays 0. And then you'll see the details will pop up and it'll show you that members 2+ are going to be 0. And so the team captain pays that fee that was in the race wizard, but then everyone else pays 0. And so this helps you because if you had 3, 5, or 6 different price increases, you don't need to set up that many price increases for this because it's always going to be members 2+ pay 0. And the race wizard is always going to have that first person pay the full price. So hopefully this trick kind of makes sense and saves you a little time for relay style pricing. So the next up is another option is a group setup fee. Maybe you want to charge a fee to set up the team to get started here. That is an option. And then you could say for the membership fee, everybody pays $0 for the race fee, but you're charging, say $150 to set up a team. There's different ways that you can do this. Kind of one of those extra examples of doing a fake corporate team for groups and teams. You could have a setup fee. I don't really see this used often, but it is available to do that setup fee. One reason that you would want to use a setup fee is if you had a race where people wanted to pay for multiple teams. You would have to have like different team captains to be able to create a team. And since you can only register once and each participant can only be on one team, you would have to use group setup fees if you wanted the ability for people to be able to pay for multiple teams. So we don't see that a lot, but that would be a reason that you would use the setup fee. So let's get into some more fun features with teams. And you want to get creative for stuff like this because, like we mentioned, nearly 30% of people are going to be on a team. The average team size that we see, site-wide, this could be for any style of team, is over 6 people per team. And it's free marketing because your team captain is going to want to recruit and get people to sign up. And then by using that experience, by offering, costume competitions or largest team size competition or special swag, if you get 10 people or over, people are going to really, eat that up and share with their friends and family. And then if you get them to share photos and things like that, it's a great marketing opportunity that it's cyclical and it just keeps going. And you can kind of build the snowball up and be able to increase participation in your race. And like I always said, one thing I always see a lot is people forget about their team captains. They don't give them any special treatment when they market to them next year. Say, hey, we've opened up early bird registration exclusively to you. Here's $5 off the race price to go ahead and get your team set up and get started. And they feel special that you've invited them back next year and you've specifically targeted the team captains. So that's something that you should consider doing as well. So hopefully I got some times for some questions.
Hey man, there was only one question and I got it answered. If you want, just because nothing else is coming in, I can just read it out to you if you wanted to answer for everybody.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you find an increased registration dropout rate because participants think that teams are required even though they may be optional?
No, I don't think we have any hard data on that. We do have an incomplete, registration form, but it doesn't tell you like what step that they dropped out. People are, we have that question at the beginning where you can like, I don't plan on doing a team, so I click no and it skips it. So that would basically mitigate, that type of information. And I think that would be a good option to use, and that's on the display settings. So we can go back to that slide real quickly. There it is. So on the registration, you have the option to ask them if they want to join or create a team. And if they have no, incentive or no reason to do that, then they can skip it. We also have custom URL options to where if you use a cover page, you can use different call to action options. And, you can make one of the call to actions like create a team. And that's a link that specially automatically selects yes for this question to bring them into the team process. Or, hey, just register as an individual. And it basically skips that process if you really wanted to. But I think when we added this question to the first step of registration, that allows that participant to say, no, I don't plan on, joining or creating a team. And so it shortens the registration for them by doing that. So I think that's the best method for that.
All right. I think one other one just came in. It's not a good idea to combine social teams and fundraising teams, correct?
Yeah, I don't recommend doing that. It is possible, but it's very confusing. What we see happen with participants, like if you are very good at marketing and promoting your race and you have, these kickoff parties, you are mentioning to your team captains, for your fundraising teams, you're having these meetings, you're educating them. Like it's a lot of work that you're going to need to do to make it a smooth process for them. Because what we generally see is they get through that social team is the first part of registration. And so they join that team and then they get to the donation page and they just like, okay, well, I'm not going to donate, and I just skip through that. So then they're joining the social team, and they're thinking that there's features. They're like, well, why don't I see the fundraising total? And that's because the social team is specific for reporting for team size, for different discounts and things like that. Where the fundraising team action, that's where the aggregate totals of all the individuals is together. That's where the power of the donations and the Facebook fundraising, everything is in. So you're doing two different worlds, and you're trying to get them to collide. We do have some features that you would want to talk with us about to make sure that they're on, to make that as smooth as possible. But I really haven't. I've been able to basically talk people off the ledge for trying to do too much for a race, when that's where you say, am I a 5K that just happens to want to support a local charity, or am I a charity that is just happening to raise money by doing a run, walk, or ride? And that's where you're going to pick one or the other, and that's what should determine whether you do fundraising teams or social teams. But if you really feel like you have to do both, then I'd be happy to talk with that, or connect you with somebody to give you some more information on how to do that.
Really quick last one, and then we'll get people situated for the next
Sure.
session. But I think it's a good question. Is there a way to require a fundraising team member to be an event participant?
Yes. Yeah. So that's on the settings. I don't have it on any of the slides here, but one of the fundraising settings is require fundraising for participants. Now, I don't like that setting, because if somebody just can't participate in your race, but maybe they still want to help fundraise, that I think it's great to not have to necessarily require that. However, with the way of the hybrid, hey, you just got to register as a virtual runner. Like, whether you actually run or not, you're a participant. We got your information. We got your contact information. We can then add you to our supporter list, and kind of engage them that way. And so if you do want to require fundraising for participants only, then obviously having a sleep-in special, or a do-it-yourself type of 5K race, or virtual, whatever you want to call it, I think is a great way to do it and continue the hybrid option, especially for people that just might be busy that weekend and can't physically come to your race, or have moved out of the area. So good question.
All right. I think you're all good to go, Matt. Thank
Great.
you very much. If you guys are sticking around, it's just about 3 minutes, so we'll switch over pretty quickly here. The next session is going to be a little bit different. It's a little less focused on our product. We're going to hear from Jen on our development team about some of the changes to Facebook and Apple policies, just kind of how that might impact your marketing.